I'm just curious as it relates to motivation and inspiration being up here in the mountains, like how much of this plays into the beautification of your work?
For Murph and I, the mountains offer respite from the tedious nature of the day-to-day life of raising a family and being self-employed. We love to come out here to hike trails, check out the waterfalls, and just clear our minds. The mountains have that kind of effect on many. They offer a place where you can come and rest your mind and soul. And for the creative types, it can be exactly the type of setting that they flourish in. It's in those exact, serene landscapes of Cashiers, North Carolina, where our friends Wesley and Odyssey Wofford made a home for their sculpting studio. Wesley is a figurative sculptor who formerly worked in Hollywood as a makeup and special effects artist. After making the move to the mountains of western North Carolina, he began sculpting commercially, and his work can be seen in public spaces around the country. Today, they invite us out to see a special project they've been working on, which will soon be unveiled to the public, a larger-than-life monument of American abolitionist and author Solomon Northup, writer of the autobiographical 12 Years a Slave. In the first of 2 episodes, Wesley takes us through some of his sculptures of historic figures like Harriet Tubman and talks in depth about their conception, meaning, and history. During this series, we get to talk with Wesley and Odyssey about sculpting out in the wilderness of North Carolina, working on their art, and being honored with the opportunity to sculpt the incredible Solomon Northup monument. This was a conversation and journey you won't want to miss. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of Hometown Chronicles USA.
When I left the film industry and we were looking for a place to build a studio and pursue fine art full time, it was very much like, you know, the hustle and bustle of the city I find so creatively distracting. So we really needed a place that my mind could settle, that I could hear my muse. And so yeah, I mean, the National Forest for us, I mean, historically sculptors have always been drawn to the mountains because they're the sculptures of our visual world. So I think that that's probably part of the draw. So we wanted to be close to family. We have a lot of family in Atlanta. We wanted to be accessible to them, but we needed like our own little haven for me to have the space to creatively think. So yeah, it's crucial to my work ethic anyway.
How long have you been here in the area?
We built this studio in 2007.
All right.
But we moved from Los Angeles in 2002. So we kind of house hopped a couple times, mostly due to we needed further out. Like we started in Hendersonville and it was still a little too big, and then we went to Sapphire, and Sapphire was okay, but the studio was real small, so we needed like room.
Space.
We needed some land that I could build. Originally the studio was 20 by 20, and then the first monumental piece we got was like an 8-foot bulldog for a client in Athens, Georgia, and I think they ordered 8 of them or 12 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 20 by 20 building with 12 8-foot bulldogs in it, and it's like, all right,
It's time to get a little bit bigger.
But you were talking about in Hollywood.
yeah.
or
So Hollywood is a very straight line to make a living. It's like one project would lead to another project, whether it was studio based. I would meet people at a studio and they would hire us again, or like I worked for a company. But the strategy here was like, all right, fine art, how do you make a living? You know, we need to do commission works, we need to have galleries, we need to do, you know, original works, just speaking about the world. And so that was sort of the beginnings of that. But
Yeah.
since the Journey to Freedom, it's been all commissions and
Mm-hmm.
mostly monuments, large public space works, which for me as an artist, that was always what I cared about the most. And still do. Like I
Sure.
think that you know, a gallery space is speaking to a very small group of people. Like even myself. Like I'm an artist, and I still am a little uneasy walking into an art gallery. You know, because I can't buy anything. I can't afford to buy anything.
Sure.
So I feel, whereas like our public sphere, we can have a real conversation. It's the most equitable space to place art, and the most impactful as far as connecting with everyone. Like you can't, sculpture speaks so loudly in our spaces that you can't ignore it or deny
Right.
it. And so you have to, you're confronted with it in a way that you have to acknowledge it and maybe, hopefully maybe, find something new within yourself. That's the goal of my work now.
It's like, what was the inspiration for this? Would this be a panther?
So this is a cougar. It was
cougar?
for a high school. It was my first.
And the bears don't try to beef with it, do they?
No, I
Do
think
they
they're
look at
scared
it as a
of it.
threat?
Dogs are scared of it. So yeah, how do you become a monumental sculptor?
Yeah.
You have a monumental sculpture to show people that you can do it. So this job was that. There was a high school. They hardly had any money. They're like, we want a mascot cougar for our courtyard, and I mean, I think they only had $2,000.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
said,
like,
we'll do it.
I'm
We
your
got
guy.
it.
I'm your guy. I'm gonna do
we
it.
need a big monumental piece.
I
so.
think it cost was like $22,000. So I just lost financially. It was an investment.
But then we could use this to say,
Yeah.
we've done.
It's like I'm investing in that one photo. It's like we installed it, and these two high school kids came and sat down in front of it. It was up on this elevated pedestal, and I took that picture, and I'm like, that was it. That was my $20,000 picture.
There you go.
Yeah.
But
So then you can start pimping yourself.
exactly. It's like, see, I
You
can
don't
do
have
this.
to be pimped no
I can
more.
do this.
You can set your own
So
price.
yeah, I mean, this thing began it all. I mean, it was just a fiberglass cast. This thing is
It's
falling
got
apart.
cracks all
Yeah,
over.
it's-
You can see that.
Yeah, there was a big learning curve. The
Yeah.
sculpture is just okay, but it did the job.
But people love it. They're still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people still love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The client in New York's like, I want to buy that. It's like, nah, well, we can make you one that's
We'll
better.
make you one better. Yeah.
All
That one
right,
cost
so
me
now we're headed
$22K.
in.
Yeah.
Do you have the lights on?
Where all the magic
yeah, I have the
happens.
lights on.
You did. Okay.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you. This is very exclusive people, so Kyle and I are very happy to be able to be in this space. But can you discuss with us, like that piece that you said kind of launched you to where you're at now with doing all of these different historical sculptures of people. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I was, I'm a portrait artist, generally. I sculpt human beings. So I was doing some bust projects, and like 1 1/3 scale. You can see a lot of them up there and some of them over there. But I had been contacted. I'd done a couple of life-size figures, just like private commissions, but never like a large public historic work. And so we were a client reached out to us in 2017. Actually, 2 coinciding projects. There was a women's history trail group, which ended up being the Franklin piece. And then there was another private client that wanted a Harriet Tubman. So the Harriet Tubman ended up going faster because they were already funded. They're like, yeah, we were ready to go. So that piece was the Journey to Freedom. Actually, there's a cast of it here.
Yeah, let's check it out.
A small version of it. So that Journey to Freedom piece was a private commission. We started dialogues in 2017, and then I think we unveiled that in 2020 or 2019. So it was complete. So the full scale version is a 7-foot version on a pedestal. It's like 9 feet tall.
And this was in Sylvia at one point, right?
Yeah, the traveling
That's when
one.
I saw you all first. I saw the newspaper clipping, and I'm like, Sylvia, that's right. And then like a week after I was going to try to come up there, it moved. It was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gone. But this one I've been to.
Oh, you've been to Cambridge?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do love. I love that
I've been
piece.
that one. I've been to that one.
I love
Yeah.
that piece.
I have plenty of pictures of it and video of it as well. It is amazing.
You know, and I love that. I mean, that story in itself is a special story about kind of local activism growing into something. I mean, I talked to this client yesterday, and it's like
How did it come about?
the Journey to Freedom. So we had a tight contract with the Journey to Freedom client that we couldn't share pictures as we go along. So we're usually pretty. We actively share like Solomon. We've been, we post here's the rough ideas. Here's we're exploring this, and so people get to see that sculpture created. For the Journey to Freedom, we were contractually not allowed to share a single picture. So it was hidden until they said, we'll give you the approval. Once you've installed it, we'll tell you when you can show pictures. So like we'd have clients come in, we'd have to, tell them you can't photograph, you can't take any pictures this way. But Odyssey put those pictures online after we had unveiled it. And yeah, it just went nuts. Like I'd never had a piece. At that point I'd had some decent portrait commissions for the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in California, Nebraska State Capitol. Like we had some decent sized projects, and we had multiple gallery representation nationwide, so we were kind of hitting all those targets. But yeah, that piece just, I think it was a lot of timing. That summer, George Floyd, all of that was sort of kind of coming to a head. And at the same time, all these Confederate memorial conversations, suddenly this national realization of like, wow, there's history. There's an entire portion of our history that we haven't even touched on. Like every public monument is some dude with a sword. Thank you, Lost Cause, But even the North, the North has a lot of military monuments. You look at the National Mall, they didn't add MLK until, when was that, the late 90s or something? The FDR monument, which was, just a different, like those, I think those projects kind of started that, but really that realization with Charlottesville and George Floyd and all of that stuff was happening. And so we were at Odyssey had put the pictures of this online. Upworthy picked it up. It was just getting shuffled around, shared. It got like 1.3 million shares or something, just ridiculous. So we're watching that happen. And as you can see, we're just two people living in a little house. So it's like, wow, what do we do with this? This is fascinating, but, how do we, what do we do? So we were with a client, and we were telling them about it, just lunch, and we're like, we're really just thinking like, maybe we need to do something with it. At the time, the Harriet Tubman $20 bill conversation was happening, and the Harriet Tubman movie was about to come out in December. This was in the fall, right after we had unveiled it, the 2019, and George Floyd had started that summer. And so we were like, the timing of that piece landing, we're thinking maybe we should just cast one of the monuments and then, do something with it. Bring it to small towns or do something. But we're talking with our client. We're like, it's a grand idea, but it's expensive. We can't, we're not those people. It kills us just to cast like this to give to a gallery. Yeah. The overhead of bronzes is real taxing on a sculptor's life. So our client's like, it's a great idea. I'll fund it. Let's do it. Let's go back to the house. I'll get you a check. You need to call the foundry. Come on, like we need to go. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm sure we believe in you. Yeah. So really that those angel investors, he's like, look, you got to pay me back, but you got to figure out how to do it. I don't care when you pay me back, but so yeah, that like we walked away from that meeting. It's like, wow, what are we doing? So we really kind of just developed that traveling exhibition from scratch and use social media to kind of build that. Like Odyssey put pictures online and was just like, all right, so we're going to have this available starting, February 2020, it'll be ready. We need to find places to show it. Who wants to show it? And yeah, that's kind of where that started. And it was it's, you know, that thing's
going
booked
ever
into
since.
2025. This one specifically.
Oh, really? Wow. And where is it located now?
It is currently at the National Freedom Monument Sculpture Park in Montgomery, Alabama.
But when I saw this, and I love a lot, I've seen so many different statues.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was just something about this statue right here when I was there, and it was like misting that day, and I'm just like, man, it's just something about that one. And it could have been because I just came from the store that, you know, she was hit with the object, and
Yeah,
you know,
the little weight
I did all
right
that
there.
with the weight. Yep. So it could
Oh,
have
no,
been
not right
because
there.
I just
Right there.
came from all of those places and everything, that kind of lent itself to why I was just that day emotionally drawn to it. But I was just like, man, this is amazing. Yep. So that was me there.
Yeah, there she is.
March 3rd, 2023.
Ah, I love that. Is that book not a beautiful
Yeah, it is.
edition?
Yeah, it is.
Just such.
Yep. See it?
Joe Biden showed up in front of it, and they're like, "Oh, you know." So this was their second endeavor, which all in bronze, plaza, everything. I think it ended up being like a $400 and something thousand project.
Yeah.
They went from we can barely raise $2,000
That's right.
to, okay, we're going to do a $400,000 historic plaza on this courthouse site. And then after that, they got some kind of grant to transform. They did a Black Lives Matter mural on the Race Street, right, Main Street. They just got a whole economic development grant for that whole block that was sort of like, you know, dead downtown. You know, that grant was like $1.3 million or something. You know.
Were these monuments able to kickstart that additional funding for the 400 and then the 1.3 for the plaza?
I mean, I don't know how. Well, no, the 400 was plaza, monument, everything, and the 1.3 was for downtown economic redevelopment with a focus on black-owned businesses.
This in person maybe help.
I mean, I don't know, you know, but I think that they are the perfect example of. I mean, Cambridge was, not my words, but Adrian, she's like, our town's dead. Nobody comes here. Downtown, everything's shut down. And there's a lot of little towns like that.
Yeah.
And they just saw the economic potential of, you know, their story and this specific origin story. The idea that little Harriet Tubman Araminta became this icon that they were going to put on a $20 bill. I mean, it has revitalized that town in a way that I think is, yeah. I mean, I think it has the potential to do that, and you know, so I think that watching them like grow. Yeah, I mean, we all joke about it. They were here. They spent multiple nights. We had dinners, and you know, it's just like wow, like it's amazing to see that sort of transformation. I mean, this piece was all about transformation. Like she's the little girl with a little cut on her head with the weight laying on the ground, and it's knocked her down, and she's waking up and having this vision of the potential of her future self, and her future self transforming into this. I mean, if you delete all of this, that symbol is powerful. That, and so it's all about transformation, and like watching that transform Adrian and Jermaine is, you know, incredible. And now this one, we have a version of this one traveling.
Oh, really?
Without Minty, so it's a singular version. And so the viewer becomes Minty. So this whole conversation about she's inspiring her with this key to her destiny, the viewer becomes the person that receives the key. So for that traveling one, and it just started this year. So it's at its third location. It's at the Cincinnati Underground Railroad Museum.
Okay.
But,
So can we go where all the magic happens?
you know, yeah.
I've been filming you against this bookshelf behind you. Is this some of the research that you use for?
I mean, just as a sculptor, like I'm very inspired by sculptors of the past, and so, you know, over the years I've just sort of accumulated books.
Smart books.
And I still like books, you know.
Yeah.
Like a tactile. I want to touch everything, and so.
Right.
You know, I mean, this book, I think this is the greatest artist to have ever lived, Carpo. Like those hands. I love those feet, like they're so expressive. Feet and hands, other than faces, feet and hands, you can tell a lot. You can get a lot of narrative with feet and hands, which, you know, with the Solomon out here. I was drawing inspiration from that book yesterday.
Those
based
old
on,
marble carvings are just, it's insane what these people could do with stone.
I know, right?
And the impressions that they have with the fingers and the skin and the clothing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You know.
Yeah, it is always blowing my mind.
Yeah. The non-distracted life of those people.
Yeah.
We all got TV
All
and
they have to
movies,
do is just carve stone.
ruined us, you know.
But it happens when you're out in the middle of the mountains.
Yeah, I mean, it helps being here.
That's true. That's a good point. Wesley and Odyssey are the kind of people you don't want to meet just once. A single day at their studio wasn't nearly long enough. We look forward to one day getting to visit them again. In the next episode of this series, we'll delve deeper into the process of making such huge monuments, starting with clay and ending cast in bronze. And at the conclusion of that episode, Murph gets a once-in-a-lifetime surprise you won't want to miss. If you enjoy watching our stories and following along with our conversations on Hometown Chronicles USA, be sure to like this video and follow our page. We love sharing our adventures with you, and we hope you'll join us again real soon.